I cannot tell you how frustrating it was to spend so much time and energy and money trying to learn Thai without making any progress, and how good it feels to finally start making progress again. What I really needed was comprehensible input, extensive reading, and conversation practice. But my italki tutors just wanted to take me through a textbook and explain grammar to me. Later, I hired new tutors to just have conversations with me, but we always ended up talking about more or less the same thing, so I wasn't really learning anything new. That's mostly because there just wasn't a whole lot I could talk about with my limited vocabulary. But then I remembered something really helpful that I had talked about with Steve Kaufman just a few months ago.
Those are the things that we most often want to express as verbs.
Do you find acquiring verbs to be more important than nouns or other parts of speech?
Yes. I find that the verbs are absolutely key. Verbs and then the connecting words. If you have verbs and connecting words, you're kind of on your way.
So I decided to start doing some more extensive reading and intensive reading with a focus specifically on acquiring verbs so that I could use them in my conversations with my Thai tutors. Hey guys, it's one of the last few nice days of fall here in Wisconsin, so I'm outside studying with my tea, and I'm working on Thai. I'm going through some extensive reading PDFs in ThaiPod 101. They have lots of pictures to make it easy to understand, and I read through these stories a lot. I have two stories that I am actively reading. They're called Pluk Ton Mai, or planting, like growing plants, and Nai Wan Phon Tok, or on a rainy day. I don't necessarily study the stories very much. What I do is I just read them over and over. I read both stories about once a day, but today what I'm gonna do is focus a little bit more on the verbs that are in the stories. So I'm gonna write them down, and I'm going to have a Thai conversation later today. And in that conversation, I'm gonna try to use as many of the verbs from these stories as I can. Yeah, here are some words. If you watch the conversation that I'm gonna have tonight, I'll probably try to use these verbs as much as I can in that conversation to get some repetitions. Alright, so I just had my first Thai lesson with Crew Mom, and I'd say it went pretty good. I think she might have been a little bit confused at first just because I think I should have done a better job of explaining like what kind of lesson I like to do. You know, it's not the traditional lesson. You know, it's like, let's have a conversation. We can focus on learning certain skills like I did. We talked specifically about growing plants, you know, and we went over some vocabulary from the story that I had read about growing plants. I pulled out a plant that my wife owns, and we talked about what I do to take care of that plant, and we went over some vocabulary that I had specifically been reading in my extensive reading, and we just had an enjoyable chat, and it didn't feel like work, it just felt like having a chat with a friend, you know, and that's exactly what I like my language lessons to be like.